Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to basically rewind time and go back 10 years. I was cleaning out some stuff in my planner area slash like this place where I keep the kids things from over the years from school, like their report cards, their artwork, just stuff that I keep. And lo and behold, this 2015 planner was in all that stuff. So like my mind is blown. So I'm going to take you back 10 years. So I would have been 32. I would have had, if it was January, I would have had two 10-year-olds because my niece and my son were only 11 days apart. So we had my niece for 7 years. So at that time she was still with us. So she would have been 10. My son would have been 10. My other son would have been 11. And then I had a 16-year-old girl. And I would have been married 13 years, going on 14, like as this planner aged. But that's kind of my lifestyle back then. So when we open this up, this blast from the past, that's like the preface to this or whatever. So yes, this is 2020 or 2015 weekly and a monthly from At a Glance. Looks like I didn't do anything in the front, and then it jumps right into January where it looks like I kind of logged my cycle. My son's birthday, Jariah's birthday, first day back to school, probably after break. Sean had an ortho appointment. So I was still doing somewhat of like what I do now. You know what? Let me grab my monthly. Let's see. This is so cool. Like, what in the world? Okay, let's look at January. So, January, yes. I've got like my days off, my husband days off. I was a stay-at-home mom here, so I wouldn't have had that. I do have students return, which was my students because I work at a school. And so my students return here, and then I have boys back to college. So, you know, first day of school back then to them going back to college. I do have Jariah's birthday in here. So pretty similar, like basics, you know, like monthly setup. And then it jumps right into the weeks. So this was like that first week of January. And I put my son's birthday, I put the no school days, and I used stickers. And then it looks like this is when we started to get back into it. So the kids are back to school. I used some stickers for that. It looks like Dan and Jariah both had dance on Tuesdays. One was at 4:45, one was at 7:30. I can remember this. This was a time in my life that was so crazy. Like 10 years ago was so crazy and so completely different. So if I'm dropping Dan off at 4:45, I'm dropping him at dance. I'm coming back. I'm cooking dinner, getting Jariah's hair in a bun, getting her dressed in her stuff, taking her to dance. Like, this is a crazy time because if he had dance at 4:45, more than likely I had to pick him up at 5:45. I can't remember if he had a 45-minute class or an hour class. If it was hip hop, I think hip hop class was an hour. So I'm coming home to cook, but knowing that I also still have to run back and get him from dance, bring him back, feed him, and then take Jariah. Like, that's what was going on just on that day. And then it looks like my daughter started LCA that day. I had a very important 8 a.m. something. School got canceled. It must have snowed because I see a snowflake there. And then orange, I'm assuming, was Sean. So that next day he had evening practice. So it looks like the other two kiddos didn't have anything. And then looks like we have basketball again that Saturday, and then Jariah's birthday. And then the following week, look at that Monday. So Monday, I had to make sure Jariah took cupcakes. It was Daniel's snack day. Sean had an ortho right after school. And then I had to drop off the fees for both of their recitals, which would not have been until June, but you have to pay your recital fees well before recital starts. And then Tuesday, we've got the dance again. And then looks like we've got the basketball going. Some more orthodontist stuff, x-rays, impressions. There was no school that day. My daughter threw her retainer in the trash can. It was on her lunch tray. I remember that clear as day. Had to run out, go get her, bring her back, get her impression done, pay the $220. Like, it was so crazy. Like, this is blowing my mind. I'm sorry, I'm so excited, but this is the life that I was living at 32. And I'm so chill now, like, oh, like this Saturday, we're just going to drive up, see the boys run track and come back. Like, I'm not running anybody anywhere like this exhaustion here. So I'm assuming that appointment maybe took 30 to 45 minutes, had to run her back to LCA, come back, get Dan to dance, do my dinner thing, get Jariah prepped for dance, pick up Dan, bring it. Like, that's what we did. Looks like Dan or Sean had an ortho consult. So they probably did the impressions. We came here. That's probably when they told me how much his braces was going to be. We had church that night, but not before we went to practice or took Sean to practice. And then looks like they replaced her retainer at 1 o'clock from when she had that impression. So I had to run back, get her. It was a whole thing. And then, looks like I had an eye appointment, which reminds me I need to actually get that done even 10 years later. Sean had basketball. Like, this is the type of stuff that was happening. It looks like at the end of January, I was on my own. My husband was in Chicago for 1, 2, 3 of the days. Said he was overnight here. So I was doing, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even have anything on those days. I'm assuming that there was still dance because dance is every Tuesday. We had parent orientation for my oldest daughter. And then we had games for Sean. It said I needed to find someone to take Sean to the game. Probably because we had parent orientation at 10 a.m. and I wasn't going to make it back to get him to a 12 o'clock game. And then same thing. So we've got the whole setup here, dental stuff, birthday stuff, dental cleaning. And then looks like that week I didn't write much of anything other than my husband was out of town. More dental stuff. So we was heavy into, it looks like, ortho with the older two because we were at a lot of dental appointments, orthodontist and dental appointments at that time. My husband was in Peoria for an interview. What was he interviewing for 10 years ago? Now I have to ask him, is that his current role he's in? I can't even remember. Dental cleanings and more dental. That's what happened when you have 4 kids. You have all the dental cleanings. Okay. And then let's see, we picked up my daughter for a few hours, took her back to LCA. We visited LCA, spring break. Let's see. Okay, this week is interesting. So Sean had testing all week at school. He also had library. No, I probably was taking them to the library at 6 o'clock. And then I had to drop my daughter 3 o'clock. Sean had tryouts after school for what? So that day I was letting him take his phone to school, even 10 years ago. Wow. I made a note of it, so it wasn't like a big thing. Like, I think kids take phones to school now, like every day. But back then, I don't think that was a big thing. So looks like I wanted him to take his phone to school, still had dance. We had Bible talk. That's back when we were a part of a church. And my husband was in Peoria again. My gosh, family night, visiting my daughter. What else did we have going on? Okay, Daniel had baseball tryouts. Like, okay, so we've got basketball, dance, baseball, lots of dental, lots of school stuff. We got some no school days. We got spring break. My husband in and out of town. So let's see this week. So we are in April now. So we're transitioning into the springtime. So that's baseball. I already know. I see it all over here. So baseball is so different than basketball. Like basketball, okay, yeah, you're busy. You got a game here or there. Baseball is a whole different ball game. Both of my boys played baseball at this time. So I was color coordinating them. Orange and green, but then I think at one point I mixed them up. So it looks like I've got Sean as green and Dan as orange, which is so crazy because right now Jim is green. My husband is green. Dan is blue. Sean is orange. So Dan had a game, or Sean had a game at Robeson. Dan had a game at Sholem. There was a field trip this day to the zoo. My husband was out of town. Both of the two younger ones had dance. We had more baseball, two different fields. Like the two different field baseball, if my husband wasn't available, that was so crazy for me, because they weren't, a lot of the teams they were on together, but there was a year or two that they weren't on the same teams. And I think this was it because their fields are completely different. So yeah, so it looks like we had field trip back to back on these days. So one kiddo had one here and one had one here. This one was to Schofield Zoo. This one looks like a college field trip. Oh, so okay, so Sean had a field trip for a college trip. Jariah had a field trip to Springfield, Illinois. And Daniel had a field trip to, it looks like, Scoville Zoo. Interesting. So I'd be interested to know which one of the three did I actually go to, because I know I went to one. So the Springfield one looks like it was a museum trip. So zoo, college trip, museum trip. We've got a dental appointment here. We've got baseball, 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 baseball. Wow. Okay, we've got, now this, look at this day. Dance for Dan at 4:45, dance for Jariah at 7:30. Sean is green. So Sean had a 5 o'clock game at one field. They were the home team. Dan had a 5 o'clock game. They were the visitors at a different field. So which one of these did Dan go to? I don't know. I put a little mark here, so I'm assuming I was going to say Dan is choosing, because he can't be at Dan's at 4:45 and at the field at 5 o'clock. I'm assuming he went to dance because in April, that's just too close to recital, which is like the first week of June, last week of May, to miss any dance classes. So I'm assuming here he missed that baseball game, because there's no way. I probably dropped him at dance, dropped Sean at the field, went home and cooked, got Jariah ready, packed up dinner, went back to get Dan. Then we all went to the field to finish out watching Sean's game. That's the only thing I can think of. Like you gotta really like manipulate your time. You gotta be prepared. Or we ate out that day. Let's just be real. If I was running around like that, we probably grabbed something, or I packed our cooler, which I did quite a bit if it was crazy days like that. So it looks like Wednesday, Dan had a haircut, Sean had a haircut, my husband was out of town. He must have got that job because he was out of town quite a bit then. Both the boys, 2 different fields again, and it was picture day. Husband out of town, husband out of town. Both the boys had practices. Dan had baseball practice on a Sunday. That's interesting. I don't remember that. Looks like my husband was taking Sean to that game, and I was taking Dan to that one. It looks like my husband he took a vacation this week, because I see he has his initial in vacay. We got dance, we got games. Yeah, we broke it up. My husband went to one and I went to another. He had to, you off, you got to help me with this. And it looks like we went to Wisconsin Dells. That's just our spot. We've probably been there 7 or 8 times until the kids had to say, Mom, we're not going back to the Dells. And they broke my heart. That was our thing for so many years when the kids were small, because they just loved it. And then they got older and I was still trying to take them there. And they're like, Mom, yeah, we got to break it to you. So it looks like we checked out of the resort on the 4th. And I bought the baseball stuff here. And it says call for 15 baseball cookies. So we must have checked out of the resort, drove 5 hours home, got him to that game, and picked up the baseball cookies, because I've got notes. So apparently you do what you got to do. Sean went on another field trip, looks like to Indiana. And Dan had a baseball game. I wonder, did I go on that trip? Jariah had a field trip here to the courthouse. We got the carpets cleaned. My husband was out of town. Baseball, 2 different fields. Yeah, like, this is so crazy to me, guys. Like, I couldn't, at my ripe old age of 42, I couldn't do it right now. That's why I had to have my babies young and get this out the way. Because now I'm like, it's too cold. It's too dark. I don't want to go nowhere. Okay, so this is when boot camp started. My husband ran a boot camp out of our house for, I don't know, 8 to 10 years, something like that. So it looks like we had boot camp. So the problem with that is I've got to get the house ready because you have all these people coming over. You got to get the bathroom in order. Like, you got to clean up because their kids would come over and either go across the street to the park or hang out in the living room. So I kind of had to have the house in order. So we were having boot camp 3 times a week here, but I wasn't home really after I picked them up at 2 o'clock from school. We were gone. So we were either at the library, at dance, at baseball. We were at doctor's appointments. So I had to use my time during the day very wisely back then in that time. So it looks like we did garage sale that weekend. How did we do a garage sale this weekend? Like, did we not have baseball? We had baseball all those days. I don't know. Okay, and then we had dance, we had boot camp, we had baseball. Looks like I went grocery shopping May 31st. And then we get into June. So let's see here. We had boot camp. Looks like school was out at 1:30. Last day of school was June 2nd back then. We had no game. We had 3 days of boot camp, baseball, dance picture day. That's a whole thing. Baseball tryouts. So I don't know. We were transitioning into summer baseball. We had baseball practice. Dad dance. So if your kids have ever been in dance, most dance schools have this dad dance thing. So my husband had to, I'm assuming, be here because it was dad dance photo day. It's just a lot. They had a night radio game. I love those games. They were awesome. Let's see. I will drop off Jariah at rehearsal. So this is where we're getting into, this is like recital week is, yeah, recital, it must be coming up because when you're dropping off for a recital from 6 to 9:30, which, let's be real, 6 to 10, recital night is very long, but also looks like the boys both had baseball games those nights until 7:45. Dan had rehearsal this day. Jariah had rehearsal 6 to 10, and it was video day, so I had to be there. So I know I wasn't at this baseball game. So either my husband took Sean or I don't know, maybe Sean went with me, but I know if it was video day that I was there for that. Says Dad will pick up Sean this day. Jariah was going to be with Grandma because she didn't have dance rehearsal. It was just Dan had dance rehearsal, and it looks like that was my volunteer night for dance rehearsal. And then there was a baseball game. No dad dance for Dan, so they didn't do dad dance rehearsal this night. Recital from 6 to 10, so everybody went to the recital that night. Sean will stay with Dan at Sholem. Oh, okay, so Jariah, this pink. So Jariah must had her recital that night. And so I had Sean stay with his brother at the Sholem field. It had to be until Dad, because no dad danced for Dan. Yep, so he must went to baseball. So then my husband must have went to pick them up because I would have been at recital until 10:30. And then it says Jariah and Dan's have recital night. How many tickets do you need? 2 tickets, 1 for me, 1 for Sean. Dad did need 1 because he was in the dad dance. And then the next day, my daughter had a graduation from LCA. So we had to drive to Springfield, Illinois for that. No recital for me. Dan recital 6 to 10:30. Oh my gosh. Yeah. If you know anything about recital, you know how crazy it gets around that time. Boot camp, our 14-year anniversary. Boot camp again. My daughter turned 17. Boot camp. And I must have gave up on this planner because I don't see much of anything else other than boot camp. My daughter's birthday. Okay, and it looks like, what is this, July 20th? That was a week of camp for Jariah and Dan. It looks like they went from 7:45 to 2. So I don't know if Sean had baseball during that time, because I'm sure he had to be in something, but it wasn't going to be camp. And then Sean had middle school baseball tryouts the beginning of August. And that, I think, is it. I think I must have gotten a new planner. Maybe I was using the planners that start at the beginning of the school year. Calendars or planners. Low carb grocery list. Interesting. Okay, and that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Wasn't that a fun video though? Like, or maybe it's just fun because it's my planner and I'm shocked at everything I had to do. And I'm assuming this is not all of what I did. This is just what I wrote down on these days. Like, yeah, the craziness of it all. But I thought I would share that with you. If this is your life now, just know in 10 years, it's going to be boring like mine is now. So enjoy it. Oh, what am I putting that with that for? So enjoy your time with your babies and running around and being there for them. So I know I'm like making fun that, oh, I was probably exhausted. Yeah, and I loved it. That's why I was a stay-at-home mom for 19 years. So my dream job I've already had. So working at the school, it's just something fun for me right now. But yeah, I thought I would share that cool little planner with you guys. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.